Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how you can use a Triplanar Displace Labs node. Before I start, maybe some explanation on what a triplanar is. So a triplanar is a projection of a texture, for example. So in this case, what I've done is the sphere, and I'm projecting from one axis my texture on it. So you can see I have my texture perfectly here, but when I look to the side, it is stretched. So with a triplanar, it means that we will project from the three axes. So we will have a X, Y, and Z projection of this texture. So in this case, it's only one projection, which causes a lot of stretching in the other axis. So with the Labs triplanar node, there will be a better way of doing that. Now here I brought some test geometry. So I just have a sphere, it's set to a polygon, and the frequency is set to 150. So we have a nice amount to work with. So we're going to use the triplanar to displace this model. So let's now plug in that node, so Triplanar Displace. You can just plug it in over here. And by default, you should have this result. So you should see like a grid structure in there. And you can see that we have like this grid structure projected in all three axes. And then it sort of like blends between both of them. Like you can see a bit of both of the two there. So now let's look at the settings over here. So the first setting here is the texture to displace. So this is a height map. So it's a grayscale value that decides how much the displacement should be. So you can bring in a custom texture. So here I brought in a custom texture from the Megascans library. So we have this rock texture, and you can see how this works really nicely for if you want to generate the rocks or something. It already gives us a good start here. Now the next option is actually a color. So when I enable color, it will then project that grid texture, but I actually want, for example, the color from the rock or the AO, for example. So in this case, I took the AO. So this is the ambient occlusion of that Megascan material. And this also projects nicely in there. Now further, we have then the scaling. So this is the texture scaling and tiling of it. So the higher we set, the more tiling, the lower we set, the bigger the shapes will be. Then also we have here the displacement amount, so we can also go positive, but also we can go negative if you want that as well. So it's going the other way then. Then also we have the axis blend, and this is like again blending between different projection axes. And if I change this, you won't see that much in here. So let me quickly reset the parameter here. So this will be easier to explain. So right now we have this shape, and we are mainly looking here at this area where we have this overlapping. So with the blending, we can make this more subtle. If we disable the blending almost, like you can see that this will keep a very hard transition between the different axes of the projection. If I blend this, it will actually be more subtle in the blending there. It's a good idea to give this some value there. Now let's also take a look at advanced. And with the advanced mode, we can offset some of the axes. Like if I would play around here with the value, we can see that I can move in the x-axis the texture. We can do that also here in the other axis and so on. Now the next step is to displace the y-axis. So this is the top and the bottom. So if you don't want that to be displaced, we can toggle this on or off. And we can also smoothen normals. This might be useful on some more complex model. Then we can also mirror on a certain axis. If I would look here, so if I enable the mirror, we can now have the same result from the other side. If I don't enable this, you see a difference. I would just basically mirror sort of like the same texture result there. And also we have that then for the z-axis. Now furthermore, let's go down here to the noise projection. And this basically allows us to add some noise on the projection. This can help breaking up some of the tiling shapes. Here are basically the default options of noises in Houdini. So we can set a noise. So we can say, I want a Perlin noise. We can set here the frequency. We can have an offset, the amplitude, the roughness, and more values you can play with. So this can just help a bit of breaking up some of the repeating and tiling parts. And then furthermore, we have here the last setting, which is the use displacement scale attribute. So if I enable this, you will see that we don't have that displacement anymore. So we still have the color, so we can disable that if we want to as well. And basically now we will displace the model based on an attribute. So in this case, it's looking for this attribute to scale. So what we can do is we can paint parts that I want to be displaced. So we can use paint attribute. And we can, for example, here paint, like here, I want some displacement. Now we can plug this in. And now instead of this attribute, we're just going to ask the mask. So I'm just going to type in mask. And now we have here displacement. So you can either, for example, here like I did, you can paint the result. So if I want here some parts as well, we can then paint that. Or we can then procedurally generate attribute noises or calculate areas where I want displacement. So we can control the displacement on attributes, which can be very, very useful. You can also here invert this as well. And we can play around here with the range more. So we can have we can play around then with sort of like the transition, or we can steadily have some, or we can steadily blend some of the shape in there still. But this can be a very powerful node, and we can then easily switch here, for example, to my big head. So this is then my big head mesh, and you can see that works well. Here we can just displace. I can plug in the rock shape. I can fine tune this a bit more, make it less intense. We can also try, for example, to smooth normals. This might help a bit with the shape. And that's how we can use the triplanar displacement node. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.